Hey everyone, Calais here and Cheryl. How you doing, Cheryl?
Good, thanks.
We're doing another survey review, and we're going to take a look at some of the citations that they had at this particular facility and see what we could do to avoid getting those type of citations. Right, Cheryl?
Right. And we're not picking on anybody, right?
No,
Not at all.
no. This is
Randomly
all
choose
public
them.
record,
Yeah.
and some of them are older, some of them are a few years old. Um, you know,
Just learning tools.
oh yeah. So let us bring in the survey here. And all right. So this was a complaint investigation. And Cheryl, you want to start?
Um, it is a complaint and it is a medication administration tag, A053, which a lot of things fall underneath that. And you can read the statute rule. The findings were when they went in to do their investigation, they took a tour of the facility and they saw that resident number 3 had a nebulizer next to her. So the resident stated that she was independent with her nebulizer treatment. She was able to do it herself, which is fine. However, nebulizers are a big thing with them, so it's a hot topic. So if you have nebulizers sitting out, chances are they're going to want to see the 1823 health assessment form. Even though the resident, is capable of doing it themselves, and this is what happened here. They went and they said, let me see the 1823. And, they looked it up, and what they found is that the resident needs assistance with self-administration of medication. So the physician checked out that the resident needs medication assistance. So that means it's all or nothing. So they can't just need help with their pills and not their nebulizer, even though clearly she can do her own nebulizer, but maybe she needs help reminding her of the 6 other, pill medications that she takes.
Yeah, it's funny with nebulizers. They have a thing with them, don't they, Cheryl?
They do. It was in the training a
So
couple years ago.
yeah, nebulizer. You're a standard license, and you have a resident that needs assistance with self-administered medication, and you don't have a nurse that's going to help you administer medications. Um, you cannot assist with a nebulizer. You can't say, well, my staff will tear open the container and fill up the little thing and hand it to them, and they can put it on, and they can do different things. Um, and in fact, that you can't even let them do it. A lot of times you'll have a family come to you and say, yeah, they need help with medication reminding, and they have a nebulizer, but they can do the nebulizer themselves. No can do. Like Cheryl said, it's all or nothing when it comes to nebulizers. And there's no way around it. There really isn't unless a nurse is going to do it.
Right, so you look down on the next page, it shows that on the 1823, the nebulizer is listed there, the albuterol, and it's 4 times a day as needed. At bedside, may self-administer. So the doctor did his or her part. They put sure that they can self-administer. A lot of administrators get in trouble, facilities get in trouble for this because you think you're clear because, well, they need assistance with their pills, but they can self-administer the nebulizer, and it's not a it's not a good rule. I mean, I don't know. I
I
think
mean,
it's
it is.
touchy. Now
It,
they need a nurse or a licensed personnel that's going to administer that nebulizer for her. Now, a problem here is up to 4 times a day as needed. So if they don't have 24-hour nursing in that facility and that resident needs a nebulizer treatment at 3 in the morning and it's only unlicensed staff, then
mhm.
they're, they're wrong. They can't do it.
Right. So
So
if you have a nurse that's working 7, and you have nursing coverage from 7 to 7 or 7 to 11 p.m. If the nebulizer order is written PRN, then you're going to get tagged for it because there's a time when there's no nurse. So really, you need to probably get the doctor to agree that if they can do without it overnight. I don't
right,
know
like
how,
schedule the treatments.
or schedule treatments or PRN during these times. Um, but yeah.
No, it's tricky, and I'm sure this place. I mean, it's such one of those things that the only reason we really knew is because we went to the meeting with Aka, and that's all they talked about for 30 minutes. A lot of people don't get that information. They take core somewhere else. They don't have trainers that are working in facilities and are up to date on some of the things and having inspections going on themselves. So
Yeah, so
I'm
if
not
you
sure.
if you read that this is the surveyor's findings, that a review of physician order dated 12/31 stated may use nebulizer as needed, um, may self-administer, and then they say the resident was receiving assistance with self-administered medications and did not have a licensed staff administering her nebulizer treatment.
Right.
So
There's
they
another
don't allow
resident
that
too.
that split
Assessment.
assessment, and you're gonna
No
that's a very
split.
common thing. If you say, well, they can do it themselves, they're going to say you can't split it up. It's either they need assistance with self-administered medication or they need to be able to do this themselves. But the nebulizer you cannot assist with, so you got to have a nurse.
Got to have
So,
a nurse.
so we just don't even. You have a nebulizer. I'm sorry, it's the same thing for a standard license. We know we're not going to have the coverage. We just don't take people in with nebulizers or um, you know, insulin or
Yeah,
what.
or it's not either.
Insulin is another thing that you cannot have a split assessment. So you can't have a resident who needs assistance with self-administered medication, but they do their own insulin. That's another one of those that they'll cite you for having a split assessment.
No, I
So,
I mean, it does look like this facility did their job with the 1823s. I mean, they just didn't understand the rule, but they did get the doctor to write on there independent with the nebulizer, so I'm sure they thought they were covered on this, but you've always have to find out the hard way sometimes.
but to me, it's something that they're gonna fix. I believe they're gonna have to fix it because somebody somebody should be able to need assistance with some things and some things they can do.
Exactly.
And it's silly to say it's all or nothing. I mean, everybody's different.
Right. What
So,
about keeping people independent, resident rights? I mean, letting them age in place and make their own decisions. It's like you're stripping them from things that they can do for themselves.
or possibly forcing them into a
A
nursing home
nursing
because
home.
if somebody doesn't have the funds to be able to have a nurse come and do these type of because if you're in a larger community, you're going to have to pay for nursing services now for this one particular thing, and it could be what 2-3 times a day. So that bill might force them out of being in assisted living, and the only place they can afford to have nursing and get those services is in a nursing home. And so you're basically saying because you have this one small need, which you could do yourself, you're out of luck. And sometimes I think they're trying to help people, but the rules and restrictions they put in place actually has a reverse effect.
Exactly.
All right, so the next thing they got tagged for that was a class 3 violation. So class 3s, class 4s aren't as bad. 2s and 1s can be much worse. Okay, they got in trouble for labeling and orders, medication labeling and orders. There's a description of the code, and then the findings are a little further down here.
Right. So this is when they resident two stated. So I'm assuming at this point they were interviewing residents to find out, different things. So what they do, they take the samples. Sometimes they interview them. So resident number 2 stated that in the room, 507, 509, that she went downstairs daily to get her medications. So this is a hotel-like ALF. It's have many floors. I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories high. So it looks like they're required to go downstairs to get their daily medications. And she told the surveyor that her daughter had ordered her medications and made sure that she had always had them available, and she's never run out of medications. But when the surveyor reviewed the records for this particular resident, it indicated that she was alert and oriented. The health assessment indicated she needed assistance with self-administration of medications. And the She also had a nitro patch daily, and the MOR for November listed that the nitro patch daily had the staff had an initials circled on the 11th and 12th, and the back page of the MOR indicated waiting on the pharmacy. So that's something that you do when obviously she didn't have the patch on the 11th and the 12th. So you need to put some sort of an explanation why. So you know right on the back so they can flip it up and see. So waiting on the pharmacy, and so that means it's out. It's hard sometimes, but I'll tell you, if you start seeing something's running out and you're getting close, you better stay on top of pharmacies and doctors for refills and prescriptions, because otherwise it just causes a little bit of a red flag when they're looking through your stuff and they see things. So the nursing supervisor stated during the interview that she didn't know why this medication was not available. So definitely waiting on the pharmacy is probably not, it's too big. I would start with call the daughter. She gets the medications from Walgreens. Called Walgreens. They're out. They'll have it on, 4 days from now. Then it'll be back in stock. Call the doctor to let them know. I mean, you need to put a little more detail and prove that you have done everything in your power to get this medication. Waiting on the pharmacy is just not enough.
Yeah, so they got cited for a Class 3 violation because the nursing
really didn't have
supervisor
enough, yeah.
stated that they don't know why the medication was not available. And they may have had a good excuse at the time. As you can see, this inspection was done in February, and they were looking back to an MOR back in November 11th. So it's with 120 residents or whatever you have, it's probably impossible to remember that specific instance, like why that medication wasn't there.
Documenting is good. Like just
right.
Overkill even, it doesn't matter. List all the steps you did, list why. Everything needs a beginning, middle, and end. So what happened? What happened in the middle? What did you do? How did it end?
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure the facility called the family and they said, we'll get it. And then that person, the nurse or whatever, said, okay, good, it's being handled. And then 2 days go by, it's not there. So it's so easy for that to happen without follow-up. Okay, the next thing they got cited for was 58A-5.024, parens 1, which is Florida Administrative Code records, facility records. So they got tagged for facility records, and the issue was, Cheryl?
That the facility failed to ensure it maintained a grievance procedure for receiving and responding to resident complaints as described in the rule. So that's something that generally you're given upon admission in your admission package, your grievance procedure. We have it posted in our facility, the form, and you want people to know how they can complain and, how's it going to be resolved. So they interviewed some
complaint, Cheryl, okay, resident 12 and 13.
I'm getting there. So you take it.
They're waiting. They had concerns about the following issues: waiting too long for desserts, waiting too long for their medications. That's a little bit more serious. The need of a workout area and a resident who should not live in an assisted living.
Huh?
And the residents stated that the above concerns fell on deaf ears, so the residents didn't feel like their concerns were being addressed.
And the thing is, if they had the grievance policy and they knew how to do the grievance, then they wouldn't have gotten tagged for it. But it kind of thinks at this point in the process, they're just starting to look for more things as they survey the property. Waiting too long for dessert. Fortunately, he did talk to a few surveys in my life, and they said that they take in the food complaints, into consideration, that, people just might be a little more picky.
Yeah.
They don't, weigh on top of, something else for medications and different things.
They might not have had a problem until they said about waiting too long for their medications.
Okay, so I have a question. You have 110 people and everybody goes downstairs for medications. Are they waiting in a big line? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, they wait on one side and then...
Right, so it may take a while. That may be a valid complaint.
It's just a lot of people. I mean, but the thing is, you don't have, I mean, you have to try your best to address it, but if some things you can't fix, I mean,
But you
you
should
can't,
document it.
you got to document it, and you got to, make note that the things that you tried to do, and if you couldn't do it, you addressed it back with the resident. And for all we know, this was all done. I know
It
personally,
probably was done.
yeah, but it wasn't
It wasn't documented,
documented
and
or
that's what the surveyors want, documentation. Um, you know,
right. So
but
I
it's
guess
the same because it's probably, you're right. It was probably taken care of. I mean, the staff is probably wonderful, and they do care and they listen, and they probably have resolved it in some way. However, it wasn't documented, so they're looked at a different way.
yeah, I have people that complain about things that were fixed and keep complaining anyway.
Right?
So it seemed like nothing was done about it, and review of the resident council minutes um, revealed the meetings addressed resident concerns regarding nursing services, maintenance, dietary services, activities, laundry, and management. Some residents expressed they waited long for desserts. Others wanted to go on more outings. Some said they had too much beef. Others said too much chicken. The meetings were held monthly. Continued review of meeting minutes revealed there was no documentation to confirm the residents' concerns were addressed or resolved, that the residents were made aware of the resolution in the next meeting or individually. So
Right.
the
I mean, so they
administrator,
did do their part, the facility. It's just that they didn't do enough per ACA, follow up and documentation showing that they did something.
administrator stated that she was shocked that the residents would think that she did not care about their concerns, as she spends most of her day hearing their concerns. She stated she normally delegated the residents' concerns to individual in charge of the department area, whether it's dietary, nursing, maintenance, and she expected that individual in charge of that department to correct the problem. She stated usually at the residents' council meeting, the old issues were discussed, but it was not documented. So she doesn't get credit for all those things she probably did. Class 3 violation. No, that's rough. That's a tough one there.
Well, yeah, it is a tough one. So there was one more little thing I found, but it's not going to pull up on the screen, and it's the same facility. I'm trying to find it, and it was something that they got tagged on deficiency cited. Let's see. I think this is it. Okay. So this is back in 2014 too, and this is when they did an LNS monitoring of the facility, and they found during the visit, staffing standards, that was one of the highest one too.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, their findings of staffing standards, which is all kinds of things, but they reviewed their personnel records, I'm sorry, and it revealed that one of the nurses was hired on a certain date, and it revealed that there was no evidence of the TB test upon hire, so they got tagged for that. The interviewer asked the administrator, what happened, and she thought the nurse had all her paperwork, and she'd like the opportunity to provide and locate the documentation. So sometimes you can ask for those things if you don't have it in a file, and you probably know that you have it or this person has it. You can ask for more time to locate it. Don't be afraid to ask. And then the follow-up showed that that nurse did have a TB test, and they were able to fax it to the area office too. So this is another thing. When they're going through your staff records and training and stuff, and it may not always be in the file, but don't be afraid to ask for a day or two to provide that documentation, and it keeps you from getting tags too.
Right. All right. Well, I think, do you want to just touch on the joint session that we went to?
So boring. I'm sorry, did I say that?
Yeah, you're not
Oh,
on mute. Okay.
what?
So it was a joint session with ACA and so
Leading
they put
age.
together the administrators and ACA, and they have this joint meeting, and we've been many years now, and it just seems to be getting worse. They I think they go out of their way to not discuss difficult issues or talk about
hot
much.
topics or it's just, I mean, it was 6 hours. I need my CEUs. You know, I need to be there because I want to be able to update you in case there is anything new or anything that, you know, I feel is like, oh my gosh, it's just so important. But gosh, it was so boring this year. Like the Medicaid person got on and she's a very sweet, sweet lady, and all she presented was just basically what is the program and phone number. Just it was so irrelevant. The only good thing about the Medicaid one was if you're not getting paid, which is a common problem, there is a complaint on their website, a complaint area. Go ahead, file the complaint. Let them know which provider is not paying you for the services for your Medicaid residents, and she seemed like they were very proactive on helping you get paid and helping you find
Right.
solutions.
There were some other things, like, for example, the online renewal for your application for your license. But
Right, that's
for
new.
those of you who've already done it, like we have, then it was nothing new, and they spent an hour
Our,
taking you through it.
my gosh.
And it was really the program of doing the online renewal is very nice, and I highly recommend it the next time you do your renewal. But
The
it is
best
pretty
part of the training,
self-explanatory though. Like you get on there and it's like very, very simple. So
the best part of the training was that it was located in a hotel inside the Florida Mall, so I got to go to the mall.
okay.
Walk around the mall on my lunch break. Otherwise, it was just
Yeah.
there wasn't anything for us to tell you or spread. I mean, it was
A
just
couple updates, of course.
yeah,
There was one that did come out with the new bill that passed. That if you have a standard license, you can take in a person with a stage 2 pressure sore, as long as you contract with a nurse or a home health company to care for that. Um, and then, of course, it's got to get better, right? I mean, things
right.
you
Yes, they have, and you have to document it too.
right. So if you're at the rehab and they want to discharge somebody and they have a stage 2, it can be done. Get discharged with home health to for that particular reason. Um, so that helps because in the past you just have to say I can't take them until you get it down to a level 1. Um, and
Right.
then what they do a lot of times is they just, okay, it's a level 1. So it helps that, you know, because they can get it treated outside of the nursing home and rehab and taking up a bed and costing everybody a lot more money. So that was one thing. What else, Cheryl? Anything else that you can think of that was?
We talked about background checks, the clearinghouse, but you know, by now, if you're working in a facility, you should know about it. If not, then you should take our ALF core class and we'll teach you it.
Yeah,
But not too many new things. So, um, yeah, I mean, it was the ombudsman was probably the most interesting one. I mean, it's a great program. They're volunteers and they come out and inspect facilities and they side with the residents. So, you know, they're there as a resident advocate. And if you're in a facility, you will see them at least once a year. They come inspect. But
yeah.
she had a nice presentation, but it's, you know, just really wasn't anything that we haven't heard before.
No, no, we get more out of doing these survey reviews for sure
Yeah.
because we can actually see what you're getting cited for.
What people,
So,
yeah, what they're looking
well,
for
you
and
know, the thing
what
is,
you could have done.
how much did we pay to go to that meeting
Oh my gosh, $280 for two of us. That
for
could have
two of
been a
us?
fantastic date night.
Well,
Yes.
$280. So
Well,
it's one
let's see,
thing
car
if it
payment.
wasn't that much money, but to charge that and then put things that weren't as relevant or really trying to skate. They didn't even really want to take questions.
No, no, not
So,
at all.
you know, people might have had questions and they said, write it down and we'll get you an answer. So somebody might have had a really good question and nobody would have heard the answer except for that person who asked the question. So
Yeah.
it was anyway. But
So
anyway,
anyways, you take our
that's all we
training.
got time for now.
It's cheaper, right? Right, Clay?
Yeah, our
Take
training,
our
that's right.
training. If you need your 12-hour update, just take it through my LF training. You didn't miss a thing.
Okay,
And
so if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get updates when we release new videos. Thank you so much for your time, Cheryl. And we'll talk to you all later.